All right, welcome to episode 23 of Roughing the Passer Championship Weekend edition. Joining me, we got the whole crew this week. We got up top on the screen here from Dallas, David Lee, and from the basement, Jordan Newman. So what's up, fellas?
What's up?
All right,
More close games.
Yeah, the Bengals really shocked me. So let's go over. I'm not even going to put the screen up. I think I'm going to wind up winning the postseason picks for the 2 cents that's worth. Kansas City was favored by 7 today. They did not cover. As a matter of fact, they actually lost. Let me share the screen here. So they lost 27-24, another overtime game. But the Chiefs had a chance, and Mahomes did not play well here in the second half of this game in overtime pick. And Joe Burrow's going to the Super Bowl. So I lost that today. I picked the over. I actually lost. Well, I have to really go and look at this. I lost both of the picks on this game. Jordan picked the same as me, so we both lost. You picked the Bengals, and you took the over on both. So you went 1-1 in the game itself, David. So again, I'll sit down and sort it out. I had a few games lead, so this Rams game might cost me too. So the Rams are favored by 3.5 before this game started, with the over under at 48. Jordan and me picked the same exact things. We both took the Rams and the under on this game. You, David, took the Rams as well, but you took the over here. So still got time, but you're probably gonna need like an overtime game for you to get the over.
Yeah, but with the way the season's gone so far, you can't rule anything out right now.
No, I know it's great. Well, it's only a 3-point game, so with a minute and 40-something seconds left. But let's talk about. I'm gonna stop sharing here, but let's talk about this Bengals game. And like I said, beforehand. I did not watch much. I didn't watch this game at all. I was doing some card work. Just got a bunch of cards in, so I was sorting those out. I know Jordan watched it. I'm assuming you watched it, David. I guess for me, just looking at the box score, and I'm not going to talk a lot about it as someone who didn't watch the game, but just looking at the box score, it just seems, and talking to even Jordan, like Mahomes' the second half. Now, at one point, the Chiefs were up 21-3. It looked like a foregone conclusion. I don't know if they got conservative. I know Mahomes threw a couple picks. Kelsey had a decent game. Hilaire's box was kind of quiet. I mean, the leading rusher was McKinnon for Kansas City. I don't know if that's probably not ideal, and I don't know if you want him to be your workhorse back. So again, not watching this game, I'm going to acquiesce to you, but not a great Mahomes. Not a Mahomes-like performance, I guess, is where I'm going, and might have cost him. Burrow, 250 yards, 2 touchdowns. Mixon, 88 yards. But they did what they had to do to win. Just when every week you kind of say, all right, this is the week the magic runs out for the Bengals. They just find a way to keep advancing. And here they are going to Super Bowl. Like I posted on Facebook, anybody that picked the Bengals to the Super Bowl are one of two things. A Bengals fan that was overzealous, or a liar, but there's nothing in between. There's no one that doesn't have a rooting interest in the Bengals that we're taking them to come out of the AFC. I mean, honestly. So, kind of a surprise. Jordan hates when I say this, but being a Steeler fan, I don't I don't root for the Bengals, but just kind of being I sort of root for the underdog. So, ideally it looks like the Rams Jimmy G just threw a pick, so it looks like it's going to be barring some other kind of turnover here. Looks like it's going to be the Rams versus the Bengals, and I'll root for the Rams just because of my picks with Stafford and the Rams in our preseason pick show, and the root against the Bengals then. But I kind of like Joe Burrow. I wish he wasn't on the Bengals, so it's sort of sacrilegious. But your guys' thoughts on this game and the Bengals in general?
Yeah, I thought I'm not too blown away that the Bengals beat the Chiefs. I thought the Chiefs were going to win. I
Well,
thought
yeah,
it
you
would be a
made the
close
pick.
game.
I don't know if you were just going on the points alone, or did you really think they were gonna, it was a 7-point spread. Oh, we lose you.
Right.
There.
No, I thought it was going to be. I thought it was going to be a close game, for sure.
Yeah. I just thought this was the
You
week
guys hear me
where
okay?
kind of now you're cutting in and out. What I thought, I'll kind of we'll let Jordan talk here too, but I thought this was the week that kind of the Bengals magic run out, and I thought the Chiefs would win by more than 7 points and go into the Super Bowl as many kind of predicted them to, especially after the Bills game. But no, the Bengals said not so fast. So you're back, David. You want to continue what you were saying?
Yeah,
All right.
sorry. I
How
think I
about?
had to switch something over. If you guys can hear me okay now.
Yeah, we can
But no,
hear you now. Yeah.
I definitely thought this game was going to be a close game. I thought if it was going to turn into a shootout, that was going to be the Chiefs' bag. Yeah, I don't know what's happening. Hang on.
All right, we'll go to Jordan and we'll let you get that sorted out.
Yeah, kind of off what he was saying. I was thinking kind of the same thing, and early on, it was really trending that way. I mean, anytime a team gets up 21-3, it's kind of a battle back. But against a team like the Chiefs, who aren't really a team that seem to let teams back in, they kind of keep that pace up on you, and the Bengals kind of fighting a way back and just kind of being consistent. I think that was the big thing with how the Bengals really fought back was they didn't panic. They didn't get down 21-3 and start just kind of unloading Burrow and letting them take deep shots. They stuck with Mixon. They stuck with kind of the offense that they know, and they worked it out, and it worked out. I think the thing that really surprised me is this was a game. The Bengals don't have a great line, and they've been killed. Burrow's kind of overcame a bad line all year, but against a team like the Chiefs, you add on sacks and a team that can score like that, it's a problem. The problem was the Chiefs didn't get any sacks. It was really flipped. The Bengals got to Mahomes 4 times, and Burrow only went down, I think, once. And I think that was kind of a big factor really for anyone going against the Bengals is that's one of their big weaknesses, and that's kind of an area if you're going to slow down Burrow and really just prevent him getting the ball to playmakers, you've got to exploit that. And to end up the game with one sack against the team I think that led the league in sacks given up, it really you get a huge disadvantage with seeing Burrow do it while being taken down 9 times and still be able to put up those numbers. You keep him upright, it's going to be kind of even a worse deal. And I think late, Mahomes just it was kind of odd because he got into the situation you expect the Chiefs to get into. They're down 3 points. He drives all the way down the field. It's 1st and goal, and he's got pretty much 3 plays to kind of pick what he wants to score. And I don't remember exactly the first play, but the next two plays he kind of took ugly sacks where he had the option to either get rid of the ball or just look for a shorter option. And he really seemed kind of uncomfortable in that situation. And that's a situation like we've seen last week and really throughout his short career. He doesn't really make those mistakes ever. He's kind of the one guy we've kind of come getting used to, like obviously other than Brady, but in such a short time, Mahomes seems to kind of figure it out all the time at that moment. And he seemed kind of the moment seemed a bit bigger for him, which was really odd. And then coming out into overtime, and it was a little bit on Tyreek Hill the pick, but I think just coming out and going for it all right there, it was just it wasn't as Chief like I think as they have been. They kind of typically, even in overtime last week, they figure it out. It's more shorter stuff that turns into bigger stuff, and it felt like late they just kind of tried getting it all back and ending the game right away and just taking that yards, and the Bengals were ready for it and really did everything they had to do and just went down and kicked it. It was just weird because the Chiefs got into the position you expected them to get into late in the game to win, and they just didn't really have the answers for it.
All right, we got David back. You want to chime in on this?
Yeah, looks like it's better now. So, no, what I was kind of throwing out there was I thought that this was going to be a pretty close game. Thought that one team would at least score into the 30s. That's why I picked the over for this game, and it was pretty close. I needed an overtime to get a few more points in there, though. But I really figured that the Bengals wanted no part of a shootout with Mahomes, especially after what we saw last week with the Bills. That's just Kansas City's bag. But really, this game, I think, especially the second half, turned out to be exactly what the Bengals would have hoped for. Kind of grinding it out a bit. I thought, obviously McPherson is now 12 for 12 in the postseason. He can't miss. He's 4 for 4 in every one of their games now, which is pretty impressive. I thought Mixon had a really great game. He had like 4.2 yards per carry, I think, but it just seemed like he had really big, important runs when it mattered most. He picked up some big first downs and kept things moving along. When they needed like 3, he would pick up 7, here and there. It just seemed like he really stepped up when it mattered most. And we've talked about kind of his up and down performances all season long. It kind of came down to two big things stood out to me was when the Chiefs had no timeouts left right there before halftime and had some shots at the end zone. And on that third down play, they kicked it out wide to Tyreek Hill, and he was tackled like 2 yards short of the end zone to finish the first half. When had they just gone for the end zone another time, they probably could have kicked a field goal there. And then they came out of the second half, got the ball, and just had a big bag of nothing the entire second half. Their field goal, they got their field goal as time expired in the second half. So, the Kansas City Chiefs, 2-time Super Bowl, trip in the past 2 years, had a big bag of nothing in the second half after scoring 21 and maybe was that close to scoring 28 in the first half. So that second half was Cincinnati's game. And as that kind of started grinding out and they really took away what the Chiefs love to do with their home run balls, they really just frustrated the Chiefs, I thought. In the second half, where the first half, it almost looked like Mahomes, hey, 3 touchdowns, here he is again, here he goes again. But and Burrow had a good game. And he made some plays when it mattered. He made some plays with his feet. Jamar Chase caught a really awesome contested touchdown, and his guy was all over him. He came down with that ball. So yeah, it was kind of the same thing that we've seen with the Bengals before. Kind of grinding it out, not letting the other team run away with the game, keeping it close, and making the plays when it mattered most. So they did it again. and the rookie kicker saved, kind of saved the day again. Which it's kind of like these are close games, and it's almost like, oh, it's the Bengals, but they're kind of making everybody else play their game, which is pretty impressive.
Yeah. What's funny with the Chiefs, David and Jordan, it's almost like there's really two Chiefs teams. So the first half of the year, they were kind of treading water, about 500 ball. The defense was not playing that great. And then they kicked it in gear. The defense actually started playing really, really good. And they look like the world beaters again. And now the defense, even they gave up a bunch of points to Buffalo. That was a shootout. And wound up outlasting them, kind of Buffalo playing prevent defense with 13 seconds and letting them get in field goal range and tie the game to send it in overtime. And then Kansas City marched right up the field and punched one in to end the game. But their defense hasn't been great. And today, what you say, no sacks on Burrow?
They had one.
One.
Yeah,
This
they
is a
won
line
two.
that's not. Yeah, this is a line that's not great. And so this looked like a matchup where Burrow's going to get sacked 4 or 5 times, and was going to have a rough go of it. And that Chiefs defense is not the same one we saw in the middle to late part of the year. They've kind of reverted back to giving up points and maybe not getting as much pressure as they did, and that played right into the Bengals' hands. Burrow. Like you said, he didn't play lights out, but he did what he needed to do to get him a W. And I think that's what they really want to do. And the Bengals defense, we talk about improvements. The Bengals D has improved from the start of the year to now. I don't think they're tremendous, but they're just doing what they need to do to win the game. And you can, like you said, David and Jordan, in the second half, they really shut it down on the Chiefs. So the defense is doing enough to win these games. Burrow's doing enough to get the job done. It's not always pretty. It doesn't matter how much you win by. It just matters that you win. And so here we are, the Cincinnati Bengals in the Super Bowl. I don't know, not many people would have thunk it. But any final comments just kind of wrap this game up before we go to the next one?
I think one of like David said, with how big of a part Mixon was for the Bengals, I think that's really what was missing for the Chiefs. They didn't have kind of that guy they could turn to and just get 3 to 5 yards when the deep ball, when the little stuff wasn't working. And it seemed that because they didn't really have that reliable every down guy to just be that consistent workhorse guy, they rely on a bit of that Pat Mahomes kind of Tyreek Hill magic stuff. And when it's not there, like we saw this game, you get into a rut. And I think 3 points in the second half, it's just having a running back like a Mixon that you can just turn around and hand the ball off to and know that you don't need the quarterback and receiver to just make big plays every, other play, I think is a big thing. And I think that's what it's big with Burrow is just having a guy is going to put up. And Mixon has been pretty good this year, but I think as of late, he's really started to he's not had as big of games, but he's been there consistently, and he makes the kind of plays you need out of a all-down running back, and he's really fit into that role. And I think you saw that contrast in this game of having a team with that kind of guy and a team with Edwards-Helaire, who I think shows flashes, but I don't think he steps in as kind of that all-down nitty-gritty guy where I think Mixon was.
Yeah, well, I think obviously Mixon won that battle today. And when you get a close game, we all know, all three of us are football guys, right? Being able to run the ball and control the clock, move the chains, that's important to winning, especially close games. And I think that was probably the biggest difference. You look at Mahomes and Burrows, they both kind of had similar stat lines. And then, even receiver wise, and then it just came down to the backfield. And like you said, Mixon really kind of made those big runs at the most crucial times, and it's a 3-point ball game. That's what you can point to. Let's take a look at this the NFC Championship here. Let me pull up the box score, if you will. So just went final 20-17. The Rams. I think most people picked them, but the a lot of I did see people pick the 49ers. Matthew Stafford threw the ball 45 times, 337 yards, 2 touchdowns, a pick. Even with that stat line, he made some bad throws. He probably should have had another pick, but the I forgot his name. Couldn't corral it. Cam Akers very pedestrian. Not a lot of from the running back position. Cooper Cup didn't doing Cooper Cup things. 11 catches for 142 yards. I'll say he was the difference. We talk about Mixon every time they needed him to come through. Cooper Cup was that guy today. Big game from Odell. You got to give him credit with 9 catches, 113 yards. And then defensively, it was a little lower. It was a lower scoring game, which was what I thought it would be, because both of these defenses are pretty good. And now we'll go over here to the 49ers side. 16 for 30, only slightly over 50% completion. Not great from Jimmy G, at least percentage wise. 232, 2 touchdowns. The interception came late at the end when they needed to put points on the board to either take the lead or tie. Debo Samuel, not a bad stat line but for him, kind of quiet. 4 catches, 72 yards. Brandon Ayuk, 4 catches for 69. George Kittle, 2 catches for 27 yards. I remember it wasn't that long ago, last year, the year before, right? The old debate: who's the best tight end in football, George Kittle or Travis Kelce? Well, that's not even a debate anymore. Kittle not really stepping up. So just kind of one of those, who was going to make the least amount of mistakes. It was kind of a conservative sort of game, is which I thought with these defensive guys. Let me stop sharing here and then come back. Thoughts on this game? It's funny. McVay, I didn't realize this. Sean McVay only used this challenge flag once in the whole regular season, which is kind of crazy when you think about it. He used it twice in this game, and to me, they were obvious. Like, why are you wasting your challenge flag? It was obvious they weren't going to be overturned, and it cost them 2 timeouts. It's lucky he didn't really need them at the end. I remember telling Jordan, like, they may need those timeouts later, and he blew them on like fruitless challenges. And I thought Jimmy G, it's sort of that why San Francisco doesn't really want to keep him long term. I think that showed a little bit today. That being said, even last week when they won, he wasn't great. But again, he just got enough done to get the win. Matt Stafford, when you look at the 300 something yards, he had some bad moments too, with some accuracy issues. Had the one pick. He probably should have had 2, like I said. One was like a lollipop that the 49ers DB just fumbled, couldn't hold on to it, and that was kind of a game changer too, because that would have really kind of changed the complexion of the game. Cooper Cup and Odell, I don't think you're going to get them having this kind of game at the same time that often. Frankly, when you look at their lines, the fact that they won a 2017 game sort of surprising. If I didn't know the score, I watched the game. If I didn't know the score and I saw 11 catches for 142 yards for Cooper Cup and 9 for 113 for Odell Beckham, and you told me that the LA only scored 20 points in that game, I wouldn't believe you. But that's exactly what happened. And it's I picked the Rams before the year. I thought they were going to be a little more lights out. I thought they were going to be more Chiefs like than they turned than not, which they're kind of playing a little more defense and just winning some of these games ugly. But your thoughts on this NFC Championship game?
Yeah, so I thought it was a tough one. Early on, I thought with the Niners kind of getting the lead or keeping it close, they just really weren't allowing the Rams to make that big play to really just jump out offensively. And they kind of the whole game were just muddying the game up. They didn't do too much offensively. And I think that's the Niners game is they wanted that really to be the game, and they kept it that way most of the game. They kind of stifled the Rams defensively, kind of kept them at bay, and then offensively they didn't really go out of the norm. They ran a lot through Debo. They looked at a lot of Ayuk short and just kind of wore down the game, and it worked for a good amount. And I think the thing that hurt him was there was a lot of inconsistency from Garoppolo. There was a few drives he'd look great, and then there was just times he'd miss crucial throws, and they weren't difficult throws. I think that was kind of the most frustrating part is guys got open. The play was executed. It's just the throw was the only thing that wasn't there. And I think a couple of those throws were for big first downs. He had one, George Kittle early on, I think in the first half, was wide open on a post to the point he almost gets, probably close to the end zone, and he just airballs it way over. And I think that's what really hurt them is if they had a bit more consistency from Garoppolo, they get a bit more control of that game for as much as they already had. I think for as limited kind of offensively as they can be, they did a good job at really just holding the ball and keeping the Rams away. But when you have kind of so many offensive weapons on the other side and as good of a defense as the Rams have, the Niners couldn't seem to hold down the Rams long enough. I think they got close. They did a good job just with so much talent from obviously Stafford, but a guy like Cup. And then you have Odell, who has, the traits and the ability, but to really have that production from him, it was just the Niners had, I think, a really good game plan. I think they were close. I think this is the style of game they'd almost have wanted. I don't think they could have kept that level of passing offense down for that long without Jimmy G being a bit more of a force than he was. I think it worked the last couple of weeks of him just kind of doing what he had to do to get him to win, but against a team with as much talent as the Rams did, he needed to step up in moments, and he really didn't at times.
Yeah, great. David, what your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, for a while there, I mean, well into the third quarter, I thought the 49ers were probably going to pull this thing off. I mean, they were holding the Rams to 7 points, they're heading into the final quarter, and that's pretty dang impressive. Heading into the game, I thought there's no way that they're going to beat the Rams 3 times this year. And, San Francisco is one of those teams that you just kind of like don't really know who they are. They lost twice to the Seahawks. They lost twice to the Cardinals, but they beat the Rams twice in their division. They lost like 4 games in a row early in the season, and I think they lost 5 of 6. So it's kind of like, who are they? But they just kind of seem to be one of those super tough teams that's just so hard to get past. One of those frustrating, hard to beat teams, a team that finds a way to shut your offense down. We saw them hold the Cowboys to really 10 points because 7 points came from the defense in that playoff game. But, it was kind of one of those, here we go again, type of things. And, you're right. Stafford had that one other kind of underthrown long pass that should have been picked off. So he was kind of frustrated, but they got going. The Rams got going, I think, when it mattered most. Kupp definitely stepped up there, with a couple of big passes late. They had that one touchdown. You brought up Odell, and I saw a stat flash on the screen that was his first 100-yard game in 2 years. So that was there might have been a stipulation added to that, but I thought that's what they said. It was his first 100-yard game since a game in the 2019 season, which was pretty crazy. But yeah, and you're right. The Rams' run game also was kind of very ho hum. So they were kind of forced to be one dimensional. But if you're the Rams, I think you still got a lot of confidence in that with all the weapons in the passing game there. And they also had a lot more chances. They had a lot more plays. I think they had like 50% more plays that they were able to run than the 49ers. But overall, this was kind of San Francisco's game, and that's why I said kind of heading into that fourth quarter, I was just kind of thinking, man, this is right where San Francisco wants teams, close, grind it out, frustrate them, mess up stuff in the backfield. But the Rams pulled it off, man. I mean, they did. They were able to kind of do what they needed to do in the fourth quarter, and they intercepted. They rushed Garoppolo around in the pocket. He just kind of threw the ball up there late, and they intercepted it, and were able to end it there. But super happy for Stafford that he's in the Super Bowl. Before this season, he was three one and done games in the playoffs. For his whole career in Detroit. And now he comes here. He's already in the Super Bowl, which is pretty cool. So, but yeah, I mean, it was low scoring game, but still a pretty fun game. Deebo Samuel obviously came up with some plays. He's a dude, whether running the ball or catching it. He kind of seems to be pretty much the core kind of heart of their offense, and on paper, you would kind of just say, well, just shut down Deebo Samuel. And then what do they have? Ayuk is a pretty good receiver, but, you look at the way they kind of roll their offense, and it really kind of – Deebo Samuel is really the engine, but it's just no one's able to completely stop him. It's kind of easy to say on paper, but good luck doing that. So – but yeah, it'll be – I think it'll be an interesting matchup. I think both teams have some legit stars. You've got I think the obvious rookie of the year in Jamar Chase. Young T. Higgins, Burrow. There's a lot of kind of star power matchup there. So that should be pretty fun. But I'm kind of glad the Rams were able to get at least one win against the 49ers this year.
Yeah, I see. Let's talk real brief about the Super Bowl matchup. I'm going to predict what the line's going to be. I'm going to say it's going to be Rams the favorite by 4.5 or 5, at least to start. We'll see. I can obviously change based on who's in or out during the game. So I think the Rams will be 4.5 to 5-point favorites. It's going to be, like you said, a lot of star power. You think Bengals, you don't necessarily think star power, but this isn't the Bengals you're used to anymore. They're loaded at receiver with young guys. Joe Burrow in his second year making the Super Bowl. And, we used to have a guy named Joe Cool that made some Super Bowls. Most people our age know who we're talking about. That's Joe Montana. Maybe we got a new Joe Cool in town with Burrow. If I don't see the Bengals doing this all the time, but they're there every few years, and he gets that. To think if the Bengals can pull this Super Bowl out, a young quarterback like that with a Super Bowl ring that fast, I mean, it brings back shades of Mahomes doing it early in his career. And when you look at the AFC, unfortunately, it's loaded with talented young quarterbacks, including Mason Rudolph. I'm just kidding. Yeah. But I mean, when you look at both of these conferences, the AFC's really got the more talented on the quarterback side of the thing. But, again, whether the Rams are favored by 4.5, 5 points, again, every time you bet against the Bengals or think, hey, this is when the sand runs out through the hourglass and it's game over, they keep proving people wrong. So it'll be interesting to see what the spread comes out, but it's gonna be tough. I think it's gonna be a close game. I do think it's gonna. I don't see a blowout with this matchup. I don't think there would have been. I think the Chiefs really presented the only team, and I know they didn't play great today. They were the only team to me that in the Super Bowl we might see a blowout type game. They're capable of that. But with the Rams and the Bengals, and if the Niners even would have won that game, I think you're going to get a close Super Bowl. And I think we're going to get that. And it might be too high. I might be too high on my 4.5, 5-point spread. It might be 3.5, but we'll have to see what it comes out with. Your guys' thoughts on the Super Bowl matchup?
I could see the spread being higher than 3.5. Well, once it's kind of done, but I agree the Rams will be favored. I really hope the Bengals offensive line finds an answer for Aaron Darnold and Von Miller, because that Bengals offensive line is still incredibly suspect. And I hope Joe Burrow just doesn't get killed back there. Aaron Darnold has got to be just licking his chops for the next 2 weeks, preparing for that, because that's still a bad offensive line. I could see, the Bengals defense, frustrates offenses, and they saw the 49ers do that tonight, if they're going to review that game tape too. So, I could see that kind of playing both ways. Maybe the defenses are frustrating the quarterbacks a little bit. I really hope the Rams bring their running game. I think they might need that to open up some of that deep passing game to Cup. But I see kind of the stars still getting theirs. I see Cup, still having a game no matter what the Bengals dial up for him. Cup just seems to somehow by the end of the game have 120 yards and a couple of touchdowns no matter what. And today, Chase kind of had a decent game. But T. Higgins had a great game. T. Higgins was making really big, important plays, kind of like Mixon was. Higgins had over 100 yards, and he was getting first downs. He was getting yards after the catch. Not a lot of huge explosive plays, but he was helping move the chains when it really mattered. So that was a big deal too. So, the Rams were there 3 years ago, right? 2018. So McVay's been there. Obviously Stafford, hasn't, but he's going to be revved up for sure. So, and this is, he's not a young dude. Stafford's not a young guy. So I think he's going to want it, probably more than Burrow, but Burrow is kind of this, you kind of alluded to Joe Montana, Joe Cool, and that's Burrow, man. We saw that when he won the national championship at LSU. He just plays that way, so I don't think he's going to be rattled. But, that's going to be –
Well, the only rattling, like you said, is going to be from that front of the Rams.
They're going to have to figure something out. Because Aaron
that's the only way.
Man. He's
if
coming.
they can rattle him early, then you know what I mean. Let them feel their presence. That could change the tide of the game, and I'm sure that'll be the game plan. Jordan, what do you think of this Super Bowl matchup?
Yeah, basically the same thing. I think Burrow's line is really where it's going to be kind of a big deal. I think the Bengals are going to have to establish the run early. They're not going to be, just because, like you said, you've got Aaron Donald and you've got that defense just has guys. That's what's, I think, a little bit different with this game than against the Chiefs is the Chiefs are going to score. So as for the Bengals, you have to put up points, but that defense isn't necessarily the best in the world. With the Rams, you face a team that can put up points, but they also can defend, and that's what I think is going to be a bit more difficult. Is I think the comeback, if they do get down, is going to be a bit harder than it was against the Chiefs team, where you're not facing as much pressure. There's going to be pressure, regardless, no matter what, against the Rams, just because of a guy like Donald, and they have a good back end with Ramsey back there. So it's going to be, I think, a lot more difficult. But on the other end, Cincinnati's defense has kind of really been there all year, kind of made opportunities matter. And I think the big thing is we saw even today, Stafford made a couple shaky throws, even outside of the obvious pick that should have been to a Tart that was dropped. He had a couple other throws that were a bit iffy and that could have been bigger game changers. And I think that's those plays that the Bengals, especially on defense, and a guy like Jesse Bates, seem to kind of make those plays that change the game. And with the Bengals, it seems they've just found those plays in the game that might not seem kind of substantial at the time, and late, you know what I mean? They work out to really kind of turn that momentum. So I think, like you said, I think the Rams are going to be favored. I think on paper, they've got the stuff to kind of beat the Bengals, but we've said that about the last really three teams that have played the Bengals, is they've got the roster to do it. And the Bengals have figured it out. They've made the plays they've had to play or had to make, and they just keep playing. And I think that's the big thing with the Bengals is they never, no matter how the game is kind of going, they never get too far out of what they're doing. They stay with their offense. They stick with Mixon, and obviously, you know, Chase does hit on deep balls seems like every 9 plays, but they don't go too deep ball heavy. They don't really panic. And like we've kind of said, it's really a Burrow thing. If they have this kind of cool, calm mentality on offense, and that's hard to do, especially being down 21-3 to a Chiefs team. So I think the big thing is no matter how ugly the game can even get early, the Bengals still are there. And I think that makes it that much harder on a Rams team, is knowing no matter what you do, no matter how much you're up, you still have to stay on it. You can't really get complacent. That's what we saw with the Chiefs, I think, today, is they got that lead and they really didn't keep the pedal on the gas. And with a team like the Bengals and that many playmakers, guys are bound to make plays. You've got three guys like Chase, like Higgins, Mixon, and Boyd. They're bound to score. They're bound to break stuff off. And as long as they keep on you and don't make mistakes, it's going to happen. And that's what the Bengals have done, is they, even when they get down a bit, they keep just keeping that pressure on you and never really getting too far to the game. And that's a thing we've seen kind of Stafford overcome that in this game. But obviously the Bengals are going to be able to do a bit more on offense than I think the Niners were. But I think it's going to be a really good game. I think the Rams are going to probably head the edge, but with a guy like Burrow and a team like the Bengals, you never know. They seem to, like we said the last couple of weeks, they just make the plays they have to make and are there at the end of the game. And like David said earlier, that's the game they want to play. They want to have it close towards the end of the game. I don't think the Bengals are expecting to blow anybody out. They just want to keep you close, and they trust in that offense and really their kicker to get it done, and it's worked.
Well, I think if it's like the postseason has shown us, I think we're in for a close game, and probably another overtime game.
We say that we're probably building it up. We've gotten all close games just for the Super Bowl to be some one-sided blowout.
Yeah, I don't see it being a blowout, and if it is, it's probably going to be the Rams' way. Like David said, I think that defense maybe causes a turnover. A couple turnovers, they score on them, and that's how the game goes. But I really don't think it's going to be a blowout. But if it is, I think it'll be a Rams one. If it turns out,
we can hope.
Be.
The Steelers fan in me is still alive.
All right, let's talk about some topics, guys, before we wrap it up for tonight. Nothing too crazy. I don't have banners for all these. Let's talk about one. I don't even have a banner for it, but as we kind of talked about his game today, has Jimmy G played his last game in San Francisco?
I think so, yeah. I think even if they win, he would have had to have done more. I think he came into the game with no touchdowns passed in the playoffs, and he was okay today. But like you said, anytime you're sitting around 50%, and not even just the numbers, I think there were plays that were there to be made that he didn't make. And when you draft a guy as high as they did with Trey Lance, that has the potential as Trey Lance does. You don't really sit him kind of behind a guy in Jimmy G that you're left wanting with. When you've got a guy that can potentially fill that want now, I think you put him in and you let him, just even to see. I think what you have with Jimmy G. And you know what I mean? You've seen it enough through regular season and in the playoffs.
David, what do you say? You think it's over for Jimmy and San Fran?
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised at all. But like as Jordan said, I think the biggest kind of factor there is the stock that they put in Lance. That kind of seems to be like, hey, let that era begin, or at least see what you got. You're going to have to find out pretty quickly, I think, because you at least have a team good enough to make it to the conference championship game and to be a big nuisance in your division at the very worst. You've got Samuel, you've got Ayuk, you've maybe put a couple pieces in place in that offense and see what Lance has. But yeah, I mean, I think you saw Garoppolo kind of top out and he had a shot, I think the story of this game was kind of the 49ers defense and Deebo Samuel kind of making some plays, when it mattered. And Garoppolo almost was kind of that they were kind of having to overcome, his lack of being able to take a game over. And you kind of got to have that from quarterbacks if you're going to reach that level. And he kind of failed that test. So, yeah, I more than anything, if they're going to pull the trigger on that, I would say it's because you got to see what you have in Lance. Because if you have a team that's good enough to make it to the conference championship game, let's see what we got.
Yeah, I think during the regular season, I think they were already looking at Lance for next year. And then when they made the playoffs, I think again, it's all speculation. I think the 49ers went into the postseason open-minded and say, listen, if Jimmy G plays really well, we get to the Super Bowl, he looks good, then maybe we'll bring him back for one more year. But that obviously didn't happen, even though they made a nice run to the NFC Championship game. Like Jordan said, he really wasn't lights out. I think the writing's sort of on the wall. I think they left the door open, but Jimmy didn't walk through it to make them have a tough decision to make them think about that with having Lance sort of in the bullpen ready to come in. And so now I think that the Trey Lance era begins. Where Jimmy G winds up, I don't know. Maybe he's wearing black and gold for all we know. I like, me and Jordan talked about this before. I like him better than probably what we have, although I'd like to see what Haskins would potentially do. But also there's some other names out there too. I don't want to close the door on any of those guys potentially either. So we'll see how that plays out. But I believe he's going to be wearing a different uniform for sure. Let's talk about some of the coaching hires too. I want to put up this banner: McDaniel to Vegas, and their GM is I forgot his name, but he's coming over from the Patriots as well. So two Patriots guys going west to Vegas. You think this is the right guy? We'll start with David.
Yeah, I think it makes a lot of sense. He's been with the Patriots a while, and I think the Raiders have good pieces on offense. We saw them pull out some really close games and really step up and rev it up toward the end of some games and pull those out with their offense. I don't know how many more years Carr has left, but obviously they've lost some players this year that probably won't ever be back. You kind of think an atomic bomb kind of went off in Vegas, and there's some casualties, so they're going to have to pick up some pieces. Obviously, one of those was the coach. So but yeah, I mean, it'll be an interesting, fit to see what he can do with Carr versus, how many years he has left. I really don't know. I'm a pretty big fan of Josh Jacobs. I think he's a pretty legit running back. He may not get you, 1,700 plus yards like Jonathan Taylor and Derrick Henry are doing, but I really like him. Hunter Renfrow is like super, super fun to watch. So that'll be interesting to see what McDaniels can kind of continue to dial up for him. He's I think he had over 1,000 yards this year, but he's fun to watch. He's doing the same type of stuff he did at Clemson when they won the national championship. He's just a little go-kart type of receiver. He doesn't look like a football player whatsoever, but he gets it done. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how he kind of uses those pieces. But like I said, I think the biggest kind of question mark is the longevity of what they're going to do at quarterback. I just don't know.
Well, let's see if McDaniel shows up. Like,
Yeah.
this might be one of them runaway bride deals, right? Another guy where he says he's taking a job, and then he's like, "Nah, I'm staying in New England. If I'm Vegas, I want him to sign that contract." And all joking aside, I don't see that happening again. So it'll be interesting to see. There's been other hires around the league. We don't have to go through them all. Is there any that you want to touch on?
Probably just more because it relates to us, but probably the Broncos going with Nathaniel Hackett. Like, I understand you want to lure the Rodgers and Adams there, but going with a guy in Nathaniel Hackett, who I just don't think is on really anyone's radar as a head coach, and he doesn't have, he's been with the Jags and the Bills and the Packers. Like, he has, he's been with teams.
Don't forget the Syracuse Orange, where it was terrible.
And that's what I think's odd is he's had kind of his run really through everywhere he's been is they've been average at best until he's gotten to the Packers when they get LaFleur, and obviously you have Rodgers and Adams, and it just feels like he was kind of already riding the coattails of legendary Hall of Fame quarterback in Rodgers, and then you've got a pretty good offensive mind in LaFleur. And it just feels very much like the Broncos are really trying to go all in and get Rodgers kind of to go over. It's just one of those situations where if it doesn't work, if Rodgers doesn't come, or even if he does and it just doesn't gel right away with a guy that might not be a fit at a head coach, it kind of can set you back. It feels just like a very high risk kind of low reward thing. I just don't. Nathaniel Hackett he didn't get me excited running toss plays on the one in the dome, and I don't think would get me that excited as a Broncos fan outside of the chance to get Rodgers. But overall, it feels like that's purely what that move is.
Yeah, I don't know if Nathaniel Hackett has pictures of some of these guys with women other than their wives. I don't know how he keeps landing in these positions. If you look at the body of work, it's shocking. Like Jordan alluded to, we're familiar with him here in Syracuse. He was the offensive coordinator at Syracuse University, not Clemson, not Alabama, Syracuse University, and now he's the coach of the Denver Broncos.
I think he played in the Texas Bowl against Minnesota way back in the day.
This just smells what Jordan said. This just smells like, hey, we hire you. We can probably, it'll lure Aaron Rodgers here. I think that's just a bad thing to do, to hire a coach to try to get, a 39-year-old quarterback? It's not like they're getting a 24-year-old quarterback by hiring a young, probably in over his head coach.
That worked out great for Jacksonville.
So I don't know what Denver's doing here. I think they're throwing spaghetti at the wall and hoping something sticks. I think it's like Jordan said, it's very high risk, low reward. I mean, even if Rodgers comes, and listen, I'd love to get him in Pittsburgh yesterday, but you're talking about a guy 2 to 3 years and little prickly, social media, WHORE, doing podcasts every day. putting his feet up in front of the camera. I'll take it with the play, but with a young head coach, first time head coach, this is a guy Hackett didn't even coach at college as a head coach. This is his first head coach job, point blank period, and it's coming with the Denver Broncos. It's odd. When I heard about that was going down, I'm like, what am I missing here? And then the whole kind of Rodgers connection kind of came out, and I'm like,
the Rodgers stuff doesn't so much as bother me. I think it is, it is what it is. He's, he is his own person. I think it's more of just kind of catering your team to kind of work around him. And like you said, at best, he's probably got 3 to 4 more years. A head coach is kind of a long-term investment, you would hope. You don't really want to kind of switch head coaches that often. And I think it just feels like the head coach decision is based on bringing in a guy that's going to be there 2 to 3 years. I don't know. I wouldn't put my trust in a guy. And like you said, he's not a long-time NFL OC either. He was, I think, with the Bills and Jags, he didn't hold just that title. I think he was like a quarterback coach or a passing game coordinator. It just feels like a very large step up from kind of OC under LaFleur to Broncos head coach with a team that's pretty talented, that's kind of ready to go. It just feels a bit desperate to get Rodgers.
Yeah, I think they're trying to bridge Rodgers with the coach, and if you don't get Rodgers, you still got Hackett. It's not like you can say, "Oh, never mind, we're going to hire this guy instead." Like that's a done deal. It's just a strange situation. I don't know how that's going to work out. Last topic before we kind of wrap it up. We have to talk about it. Tom Brady apparently semi-retired. Like now he's retired. 5 minutes from now, no decision has been made. Then it's going to be like all signs point to him retiring. When this came out yesterday about him being retired, I'm going to be honest with you what I did. I went right to Tom Brady's Twitter, and the last tweet he made was 2 days ago, and he was commending Ben Roethlisberger on a great career and seeing Canton. Nothing else. Then I see a comment from his agent basically saying we have made no statement. We'll make there's nothing to report. Then I see another report come out that he called, I think his name's Jason Licht, the GM for Tampa Bay, and said, "Hey, I haven't made a decision. Don't worry about what you're hearing. I myself have not decided either way what I'm doing yet. So I haven't officially retired." Then he called Bruce Arians last. You can read into that what you like, and said the same thing, that I haven't decided whether I'm playing or not playing. And so it just screams to me as, the two guys that reported it, one being, I think, Schefter, and I forgot the other one, just trying to scoop a story. Maybe they're hearing rumors that he's leaning that way, and they want to be the first to get out and report it. I'm not a Tom Brady fan. I really not. I kind of want him to retire and be done with him, so we don't have to deal with him anymore. But if I'm him, I come back now. I want to just to make these guys look bad.
Yeah, you're not the one that's got to suit up and get hit by 6'5".
Yeah, well, Jesus, the guy threw 45 touchdowns and 7 picks. He still can play. So if I want Tom Brady to retire, but I was so mad that these two guys just jumped the gun. I almost hope Brady says, "You know what? I'm going to hear to announce that I'm coming back for one more year with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers." Just to kind of give the old, middle finger to those two guys for jumping the gun and reporting. I don't know. It's goofy to do that when I don't care what you're hearing. It's everything breaking news, notifications on my phone, Brady retiring. Then I go look to the guy himself. And here's the other thing. If he doesn't, so the news breaks that he's retiring, and then you get all the schmoozing from everyone. "Oh man, congrats on a great career former teammates, current teammates. It's all over. Your phone's clogged up with it. And now if he doesn't retire, you got to go through that twice. So next year when he does really retire, and all the oh man, we got to do it's like we got to deal with the whole schmooze fest twice instead of once, and that's thanks to Adam Schefter and the other guy I think who I can't remember.
Jeff Darlington, I think it was.
Yeah, Darlington. Yep. That's probably why I don't remember his name, Jeff Darlington. Sounds like it's a raceway in NASCAR, but so. I just don't report stuff until it really is like official where there's no doubt about it. And now we're getting some doubts and I don't know what's going on. What do you guys think about this whole Tom Brady deal?
Yeah, it's pretty confusing for sure. It reminds me of when Barry Sanders retired. I just remember there was a lot of like confusion and different reports and all that kind of stuff. So I don't know. It just reminded me of that. But it makes sense to me. It makes sense that he maybe wanted to use this year just to see if they could get back to the Super Bowl. But maybe do it twice with another team. Doing it once, in his first year away from New England was enough, right? But it makes a lot of sense that maybe he just wanted to see if they could do it again. Had he made the Super Bowl this year, he would have played in 20% of all the Super Bowls ever, which is crazy. He's at 19% right now, but 20% is just a cool like 1 in 5 number. I don't know. So, but yeah, I mean, you're right, John. He led the league in just about every stat that matters. I mean, you can't deny that. It's not as if he's just hanging on and he's old and everybody knows that he's old and his teammates know that he's old and washed up. It's not like that. He may feel like he's got about that much left. I don't know, but apparently, it's I don't know. It is kind of weird that it hasn't been wall-to-wall news coverage of his statement or his getting in front of the camera or something. And maybe he will. Maybe he'll use this 2-week gap before the Super Bowl to kind of dominate the headlines. But yeah, it is
Well,
kind of odd.
If he wants to do a Tom Brady thing, he should wait till the morning of the Super Bowl and announce it.
Yeah, that would be a Jerry Jones thing. and I'll tell you what, if Tom Brady does that, Jerry Jones is gonna do something crazy that day too. I promise you, he'll do something.
The only crazy thing he could do is that makes sense would probably be fire McCarthy and then hire Sean Payton.
Yeah, he'll hire Sean Payton and sign Aaron Rodgers. Do a 1-year deal, and he'll dominate the headlines. Jerry Jones, that's his bag.
Jordan, what do you think? You're the one that came in and said, "Hey, man, Tom Brady's retiring."
Yeah, I think it's probably a thing where I think Brady's really leaning towards that, and I think probably around him people know that. And I think it was a thing, like you said, someone got a hold of, that information and you want to be the first. I think a little bit of this waiting out and Brady doing the not sure thing, I think is a good bit of him really, really dragging Schefter on. You know what I mean? I think Brady's thing is he's really done his whole thing his way. I think he wanted to probably retire his way and, like you said, either have a press conference or do kind of a big video memorial type thingy. And I think Schefter kind of taking the rug out under him, probably knowing how Brady is, kind of. I think he's kind of going to want to make Schefter kind of wait it out and now make him think, But I think he ends up retiring. I think he probably does kind of a big announcement thingy eventually. But I think the person that's got it worse in this situation is probably Rob Gronkowski, because he's going off what Brady's doing, I would assume. So he's probably sitting at home seeing reports Brady's retiring and calling Tampa Bay, I'm going to be done too. And they're like, well, Brady didn't tell us he's done. So Gronk's probably at home, calling whoever is doing commercials confused. But I think
Here's what they should do. They should do a live show together, Gronk and Brady. One coin, right?
Football, and then Eli and Peyton can do Monday.
Yeah, one coin, and Brady says, "All right, we're going to flip the coin, Gronk. Heads we play, tails we retire." Right? The thing about the ratings that would get,
Yeah,
so it'd be right behind the LeBron James taking his talents to South Beach episode.
At least that'd be an entertaining one, though. I'd tune into that one.
So yeah, I don't know, crazy stuff. Jumping the gun. I think Tom Brady's father said he's not retiring. So I don't know what the heck's going on.
You'd think Tom Brady's father would have been retired with his son being so rich.
Here, John Keating, my friend John Keating from that 70s, he's going to play for the Birmingham Bears. Hey, he was drafted by the Montreal Expos.
Yeah, he's a kicker. But
so who knows? Yeah, he can buy them a nice bus like Jordan did, because I'm sure the Jordan bus isn't as nice. I'm sure that's out of commission.
The one reason I hope Brady does come back is let Ben get his own Hall of Fame tour in 5 years, and then Brady's big show can come after. But I mean, it'll once whenever Brady gets in, it'll be a Brady thing, but. It'll be cool kind of having them both go in, but it's kind of that thing is like throughout Roethlisberger's career, he's got the 2 rings, but for that stretch, it was just, there was always the one dude and it was Brady. So it'd kind of be unfortunate for like being a Steelers and Roethlisberger fan. It'd be kind of a fitting tribute.
Well, maybe that's why Brady's retiring.
Yeah.
He wants to trump him again.
There was a couple Pittsburgh reporters that had tweeted that, like, Brady can't let Roethlisberger, go out one more time. He's got to kind of nix him at the end again. But
all right, guys. All right, we're up about a little over an hour, so we're gonna call it Super Bowl Rams Bengals. A couple weeks. I'm predicting like a 4.5 point spread. We'll see. The way this postseason's been, I can't bet against anybody. It's been tough. All for the most part, a lot of close games. That's what I think is going to happen here. For those watching, thank you. If you're listening to us later on, thank you as well. You can catch the video replay either on the Sports Card Nation podcast YouTube or on the network we're on, which is a 6-pack coverage network. They have a lot of great shows: sports, food, life, investment, style, all that stuff. And we're on their YouTube channel as well. So however you catch us, we appreciate it. I'll make an announcement when our next show will be. We'll have to we'll probably do maybe a real brief Super Bowl special. Maybe next week. We'll have to see where we're at, or maybe just a Tom Brady is still thinking special show. So, but all right. Thanks everyone. We'll see you next week. Maybe.